if you're expecting healing to feel easy and calm, that's not how it usually works. Often it feels messier at first, like more sensations, less certainty, different reactions. And that can make you feel sometimes like you're doing it wrong. You're not. So let me walk you through it so you can see what it actually looks like. I'm not speaking from theory. I'm a coach and I've sat for thousands of hours helping clients move through anxiety, shut down, panic, relationship triggers, identity shifts. And personally, I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. I've journaled, I've made art, I've done personal therapy, couples therapy, EMDR, family constellations. I've worked on my nutrition. I've even microdosed. I even sat on top of a mountain for 28 days to confront my fears. And I've gone to the jungle to meet the darkness of my anxiety. I've meditated for 20 years and I've taught meditation, taught communication, embodiment. So when I'm talking about nervous system healing, I'm talking about my own lived experience. And what I've learned is this: healing rarely looks like what we expect. So, for example, one of the things that you wouldn't expect is that your feelings actually start getting louder. So, usually, when I'm not regulated, a small thing may happen. It could be my husband leaving something on the kitchen counter or a contractor not calling me back quick enough. I feel it immediately. I get hot, and mind you, it's not hot flashes, but I get hot, my jaw tightens, my chest, and it really feels like I'm about to explode. And this may sound familiar, but that is the moment when I usually want to disengage, or I move away, or I shut down, or actually maybe I explode. But it's usually the moment when the discomfort, that feeling, I don't want to feel anymore. And then it's a tendency to push away. So the thing is, like, when we are healing, we are more capable to stay. And so we feel through, we stay with the feeling longer, so feelings feel more intense. And the cool thing about this is that staying, then you can feel deeper feelings that are connected to your needs. So when we're healing, feelings just feel bigger, but it's not that you're doing anything wrong. You're actually more available to yourself and your situations. And so it means that you're not numbing anymore. So feeling more, it's not that you're unstable. Maybe it means that you're more available. Another thing that you might notice is that you stop running on fumes. Like I literally feel when I am overextending. I feel like a headless chicken running around, and I'm trying to do this thing, and then I get distracted and I do this other thing and not really getting anything done. And maybe this is familiar to you, but that just kind of spikes the anxiety, or starts spinning the anxiety much tighter, because there's the anxiety of pushing harder, wanting to get more done. And so the stress level rises, and but then the less present you are. So that habit of running on adrenaline, you stop feeding on that fear and that anxiety. But what happens is that then you start moving slower, and it's maybe you judge yourself like you're being lazy, or maybe you're not as passionate as you used to be. And I've noticed that actually now, when I take the time to pause, to slow down, and be okay with it, it organizes my thoughts. I can see clearly, prioritize, and at the end of the day, paradoxically, more gets done, and more of what's important gets done. So when pushing harder doesn't work anymore, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It means that the nervous system is just not being fueled by fear anymore. And it's um, more like, again, it feels slower, but it's more because you are now receiving your own signals. And so you're being guided and informed by your own compass. This third one is super interesting because you actually choose calm over chaos. And if you think about it, it nowadays it's almost like chaos. It's a misinterpretation, I think, that being in the chaos is being in the pulse of things. And so calm is, it could be interpreted as you're disengaged, or you're not living life to the fullest. I, I actually did an experiment and I deleted all social media from my phone. And I made a video of it, so I'll leave a link in the description. But it was so interesting of what happens when you disengage with all that distraction, with all that stimulation, and I guess something of an excitement, and you instead start choosing space. And the important part of this is because you are choosing system regulation instead of, um, in some ways, in the cycle of dysregulation. You know, kind of like when you are, um, like when you're going downhill and you're trying to stop, but it's almost like easier to just keep going faster. When you're trying to stop, it's going to feel like you are losing your balance and losing control. But what you're doing is just slowing down the speed at which you're going, which you weren't in control in the first place. And if you look deeply, this kind of over connection and overstimulation, for some people, stems from a need to take care of others, to stay regulated. And the cool thing about this, when you start choosing calm and regulation, is that you start choosing yourself. You start choosing your needs and taking care of yourself instead of just taking care of others at the cost of yourself. It's actually creating more intimacy with yourself. You start spending more time alone. This is different than loneliness. This is private, nourishing, and that's a deep nervous system shift. This next sign you might be experiencing, and it's that your body handles stress differently. I know for myself, I tend to have kind of two modes. One is I sort of freeze, and the other one I fight. And the freeze, understandably, it's almost like that's my answer to not blowing out. So I just kind of like control all my intensity, or I blow out. But the more, again, I've taken that pause and I've stayed, the more I'm able to feel my um, like the full extent of my feelings, then something new is happening. Is that I feel more solid, more embodied, if you will, in moments of stress. And when your body responds differently, that can be disorienting. And especially when, for so long, for example, for me, it was really important to advocate, to um, lean in, and to you know, protect myself or protect what I care. And now what I'm finding is that the more regulated I am, actually I can, um, the answer is not to, anyway, I can just see when I am reacting or freezing, and now I feel I'm just more present, so to the possibility and the availability in the moment. So I think if you don't know that this is a sign that you're going to be responding to situations differently, you might force yourself again, like you should stand up for yourself. But sometimes just listening could be the most what's the word, the riskiest thing you can do, you know, the most powerful thing you can do. Oh, I remember the word, the most subversive thing you can do in a moment. Instead of, you know, launching out with your fight, it could be your body just feels grounded and calm and listening, instead of feeling perhaps that you need to flight and leave the situation. Maybe you hear yourself asking a question. Actually, now that I think about it, I remember I used to teach nonviolent communication, and for the longest time, I got a habit that I would just say something, and I would just end the sentence like, "Is that true?" Or um, or maybe it's like, "What do you mean?" Like, so instead of arguing, I I I would hear myself getting curious and leaning in, and instead of feeling the, you know, the heart race and the freezing and the contraction, and yeah, I don't know, I think my body, I felt like I can breathe more. So just be in the lookout that if you start responding differently, it's your body reorganizing and adjusting and finding its way. And it means that you're growing in capacity, and your body is less afraid of feeling. And when your body isn't afraid or less afraid, then there's a lot more possibility, because everything slows down and you're more present with yourself and your situation. So this last sign gets connected with that curiosity, right? Your body's more regulated and you're curious. And this is where, again, it's a misinterpretation, but you are more able to stay, you know. And I should know, um, I'm married for a second time, and as my wedding ring, I actually tattooed in my finger, "I vow to stay." And I think that's so important, because um, I used to stay out of that frozen state, right? And I didn't have a response, or I didn't know, or maybe I was too um, dependent, and I stayed. But this is a different staying. This is a choice. This is, um, in some ways, rising above the fear that used to that used to rule me, for example, and deciding ahead of the game what's important for me. So again, this last fifth sign, that I think it doesn't feel like healing, because it it can be sometimes like a big storm to stay, and the feelings are running and your body is reacting, but there's like a deep determination of what matters to you, and your head is clear about that. And so again, it may not feel great. You might still feel confused. It might feel uncomfortable in your body. And even, you know, especially in relationships, it might feel like you are, yeah, you're not showing up perfectly. But that decision to stay is so brave, and a huge leap forward in your progress of healing, to be able to stay for yourself, for your life, and for others in your life as well. And this is your nervous system adapting brilliantly. Now you're building patterns based on your life right now, rather than reacting on old memories and old fears. That's you growing quietly. You might not be feeling dramatically differently. And in fact, you might feel more sensitive. But if your feelings are getting louder and pushing harder is not working, and you're choosing calm and finding yourself responding differently and leaning in with curiosity instead of escaping, you're not going backwards. Your system is reorganizing. If this is resonating, go ahead and like the video so people like you can find this message. And if you want to know where you are in your process, there's a link in the description for a private strategy call. We'll look at your patterns together, not fixing, not forcing, just finding clarity and direction, because you're not broken, you're healing.